Hello, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. This is definitely, obviously, a recording. I'm so sorry I cannot be with you in the event. I'm currently in the Philippines, but I'm really happy to talk to all of you and share some of our ideals that we want to pursue in the future. So, without further ado, let me just start with our presentation today. My name is Kaurizmi Noisham. I run a few practices, and in our office, we are a bunch of young designers, great idealism. We still have a lot of hopes for the future. And we did a lot of projects, diverse in scale and size, of course, developments or master plans included. At the same time, we also design for the digital world, or rather what you want to call it as metaverse. And we do have other outputs as well, more informal outputs such as podcasts. And of course, my TikTok account, for example, is an advocacy channel for the public. At the same time, we occasionally introduce our research pamphlet, what we call manifestos. And this is some of the series. And today, what we want to talk about is our adventure through our journey in architecture. The idea was really to have a good subsequent workflow of knowledge from a think tank to architectural designer and practice, where think tank would somehow get into the gist of the broader vision of the world and refined into a physical intervention by forestry architect, which is entity that always be in competitions. And if the project is eventually commissioned, it will be under practical architects overhead, which look at the refinement of things that has legal implication. Now, for our first project today, we're going to share is our winning entry for Penang Bay that we won back in 2021, if not mistaken. So Penang Bay is a regional locality between these two mass of the Penang Island and of course the main Malayan peninsula, Butterworth and the Georgetown waterfront. And Penang Bay is, is conceived to consist of these two shorelines and a water body in the middle. So you can see that the idea of having these conurbations of urban intervention are fairly unique. This is a very prehistoric waterfront. So if you look at the locality, it is quite central to major ASEAN cities. It's quite strategic. You can see that the pool of populations is more than 250,000,000 people within a 4 hours flight. And this is some of the interventions that are currently ongoing in that particular area. The hotspots, you can see a lot of traffic, people movement in that particular region. It's quite concentrated, I would say. And this is some of the ongoing efforts within the bay itself. You can see some of them here, and and we're going to look at some of these as existing assets that we can work on within our proposal. So again, redefining where the eventual intervention would be to create a new urban model for this particular region. We look at all the possibilities, and we start with sort of framing the region. You can see there is a huge natural assets on both sides, where you have the Penang Hill as a conurbations of Penang Green Spine, with the hills and highlands on one side, on the island side. Meanwhile, the exact opposite, a contrary of a flat land, flat, rich and fertile delta in the agricultural belt where they harvest paddy. This is some of the intervention or possible parcellations of strategic input that we want to inject in this particular region. But obviously today, since we are short of time, I'll not cover every parcel. So this is a atypical outlook, multi, what do you call it, ethnicity, Penang, and it offers a range of experience. But of course, this experience comes with the challenge of industrialization and now de-industrializations and management of resources that includes habitats for local fauna, sea fauna, and of course, man-made infrastructures such as social housing, industrial bridges, jetty, and other water assets. So to activate the 8 development parcel, we have developed 8 urban design strategic tools that cover resiliency to make it climate ready, to ensure that it's a social inclusion for everyone and empowerment, of course, improving the bay resiliency as a whole, ecological outlook, and legality of ensuring there is some versatility or flexibility in land use, sustainable mobility network, and then the economic side of it, land value reallotment, and of course, dynamic development model to ensure that every stakeholder's economic concern are fairly addressed in this upcoming proposal. So this is the 8 development parcels that we think will give the most impact in this particular bay. And then we're going to deploy the strategic tools. But of course, the strategic tools are not to be deployed all at once. They can be deployed in combinations of one another, and then depending on the particular parcel, and we're going to deploy them according to the suitability and the goal and aim of each individual parcel. So, of course, what we want to do is to address the challenge of the climate changes that we are going to face in the near future, and alignment of these challenges to the aspiration of sustainable development goals, of course. To ensure that we bring more people to the fray, to be an inclusive urban conurbation, we have to ensure that marginalized communities, communities that need a little bit more support, single mothers, orang kelainan upaya, or people with disabilities, people that have poor social support, is part of the master plan software, rather than thinking that it could be done later on. That includes social enterprise, empowering single mothers, for example, or troubled teens with mentoring exercise. So it's not purely physical intervention. Of course, there will be a physicality aspect of the proposal, but we also encourage some level of engagement on the program, or rather social level. On improvement bay resiliency, we can see that there's a lot of flora and fauna that is, I'm not going to say thriving, but they are locals to that particular area, especially mangrove forest that is native in the world is fairly percentile of native mangrove forests in the world are fairly low. I think it's a single-digit number. So the idea was to bring back, because they are suitable to be planted here. They are previously was there. It can create and rich ecological foundation that allow the natural processes to take over when we have the prior intervention. So densification of trees, encouraging pollinators, and of course the designation of some no fishing zone. As I mentioned, this is some of the example that we can, free upon replanting some of the mangrove tree, bringing back the rich environment that this flora and fauna can thrive in. And of course, at the end of the day, it still serve us, in a sort of in a way that we can ensure our food security, first of all, food quality are maintained and food security are sustained. And with the adoption of better technologies of the future, we want to ensure that they are included in this design. That includes the use of autonomous drone delivery, mechanized logistical centers that reduce the intervention of human, or rather reduce the intricate logistical challenges of getting food, parcel or mail to individual houses or premise, and try to reduce the footprint of producing food that might include producing meat in a cellular lab, or plant-based meat, and of course production of food in a contained and controlled environment. To ensure all this goodness are paid for or possible, we have to ensure that people can move, economic engines can go on. Of course, Penang has earmarked some allocation under the Penang Transport Master Plan to include cable car in the array of proposed network of public transportation. But of course, we still need to ensure that our PMD's personal mobility devices infrastructure or micro mobility infrastructure are also ready to complement the last mile gap. And when we do all this, of course, there are some challenges, some areas that need to be reserved for some of these efforts. And the land value has to go somewhere. So this kind of work hand to hand, land value reallotment and dynamic development model has to have that flexibility to gauge the legal challenges of land ownership, and of course the value attached to the land. So to really sort of demonstrate how does that actually work in those parcels, we can see here in this particular case, it's in McCallum neighborhood. It's not far off from the Komtar Tower. You can see right now it's been used as logistical piers for construction material, but they are slowly recovering some of the land to ensure that it's slightly more habitable, defining reclamations. I wouldn't say a total reclamation, but rather redefining the shoreline per se. And you can see that there's a lot of social housings, high-rise social housing at the cusp, at the very line of the gazetted UNESCO World Heritage Site, and there is a school in the middle of the particular neighborhood. So this is the main artery, which is the highway that have a lane reduction as it goes into the UNESCO gazetted site. And what we want to do is to ensure that they have a loop or a transferred mobile modes from private vehicles. And then what we want to introduce is Initiative B1, for example, a McCallum multimodal terminal that try to somehow bring people into a hub that they can transfer into other modes of transportation. That is one of the intention. The next one is really to reconnect this area where the newly developed neighborhood on the other side. And then right now there's no physical connections, and try to tie it back through a McCallum Civic Loop. While it's near to Komtar Tower, the neighborhood does not enjoy the proximity, and there are some urban fabrics that is not connected or poorly connected. We want to get them aligned and try to bring people from the tower, from the iconic Komtar Tower or the Komtar complex into the waterfront, so that they can feel that they are actually in an island. That will include a carbon sink, forest, of course, and at the end, at the tip of the shoreline, a leisure promenade. So what we want to do eventually is to create appreciation towards some of these, what do you call it, interesting nodes. So at the end, when you look at all five working together, they somehow sum up or redefine this particular neighborhood. So starting from the first initiative of getting the multimodal terminal built. So what we want to do is to get the ferry terminal, the bus terminal that is currently clogging along the shoreline near the Clan jetties to be repositioned here where they can get modern amenities, integrated complex with other, what do you call it, transportation modes such as water taxi and the possibility of having air transport and of course the existing ferry that goes overseas or goes to Butterworth. So we can accommodate all those customs, police, complexes as well, enforcement bodies to be in a complex together. So the administrative portion of it become tighter. A bus depot are here as well. So it's all integrated. The idea was really to tap people in from the highway into the McCallum Pier Road and eventually try to get everything out and decommission the existing ferry terminal. And that in turn can be turned into a touristic asset in full, in line with the Clan jetty on the side. So the idea was really to take traffic out. So instead of people coming from Butterworth flooding the gazetted area, they are now in the tip or the start of where the highway is. So the highway is connected through a direct bypass that we name as McCallum bypass that somehow try to tie the existing highway with a new transport hub. So in this particular area, we want to tie the neighborhood together with a social loop where people can go around and enjoy themselves near the waterfront, and then especially a development for youth and appreciation of civic qualities between the neighborhoods that is currently physically separated. Of course, we have the Fisherman's Jetty as one of the stakeholders that actually use the water body, and then to substantiate or supplement their economic interests. A new fresh fish market are also built in order for them to market their catch. So we are thinking something along that line, weaponizing infrastructure. Of course, there will be the McCallum bypass, which is in a form of private vehicular infrastructure. We understood that. At the same time, we also give sort of like a sheltered urban fabric for any social engagement down below, activated by the local communities and of course, especially the youth, a space for youth to get into good habits and of course togetherness and social development. So for most of the housing, social housing areas, we opt for facade upgrade. The idea was really to ensure that the house has the potential for capital appreciation with development of urban realm around them. Of course, that is one, and an increase of floor area. I think this is not particularly new. Previous Pulitzer Prize winners has actually extended an existing Parisian block into somehow an addition of 20% of square footage that allow the building to have a new facade, a new lease of life, and at the same time a bit more practical due to the increase of space. At the same time, of course, a line of carbon sink trees will be lining the promenades that actually connects the main road to the water body. With the advent of light rail station, I think this area could be easily activated. Now, the neighborhood that been deemed as a back portion of the particular island now can have a front face as well. And this new, what I call it, urban realm nearby the water can complement the experience that the visitors or tourists get out of the clan jetties. Of course, this is not really what I call it, historical per se, but the idea was to create a balance between the experience, or rather the diversity of experience that you can get going through the water body. Now, there is already a development for Siabui Archaeological Urban Park, and there are some revitalization works done here, but to ensure that they are able to hold substantial content, or rather commitment of time of people that visited the site, we propose a museum that is part of the ground, try to build from the ground up and try to bring people down and really have the experience of archaeological journey throughout the UNESCO gazetted region of the island. Try to discover what it used to be and what it could be in the future as a moment of inspiration. So now this is the McCallum waterfront spine. This is one of the 8 parcel, and you can see that it is quite substantial there in the middle, where it stands between the parcel A, which is going to be the heritage centric seafront, and then a little bit more innovative Jelutong Innovation Campus, which we're going to cover in this particular lecture as well. So now, if we want to look at on the other side, which is fairly challenging, is fairly predominantly infrastructural base, where you can see there is a logistical port infrastructure or structures with a lot of transportations lines, such as the BORR. This is the Butterworth Outer Ring Road, which is an expressway that cuts through. And at the same time, we have the large Penang Central, and where the ferry terminal used to be. And we also have the KTM station there, the Kereta Api Tanah Melayu line that goes in. But when you do the stamping of all this infrastructure, you can see the land development parcels are fairly fragmented. They are cut through by large roads, some of them more than 6 lanes. So it's fairly challenging. But what we want to do in this particular area, due to the fact that it is super well connected, there are possibilities of getting more robust and technically more valuable or higher value chain innovation and activities. Now let's look at this particular area specifically. Penang Central are slated to be developed as a mixed development. Of course, right now we only see the transportation hub only, which quite challenging due to the fact that it's not well connected to anything. It is an island by itself. So if you look at the KTM Butterworth, it is more or less the same story, where people have to go outside the station, go up and down a bit, going through some physical challenges to get into Penang Central. But even with such a dedicated transport hub, a lot of people has been bus operators per se, because they are going up north to Perlis most likely. They just leave the whoever stopping at this particular stop by the roadside. So this is some of the challenges that we can see in this particular region. Definitely what we want to do is to ensure all these fragmented fabrics to be tied together tightly. And with the advent of the future cable car or skycap facilities or a transport network, we're going to tie them together. So we want to ensure this particular area, which predominantly consists of smaller dwelling units, should be optimized and densified to ensure we leave more area for nature to grow in this particular region. And what we want to bring is to bring clean water back to the community. So again, relationship between human and nature will be enforced. So this is where we're going to do the mangrove ecological enrichment. The idea was really to ensure that all this derelict industrial infrastructure that is no longer performing to be returned as natural sites. So as a whole, the interventions cover these particular pockets of areas. Now, what we want to do is really to bring in connectivity and access to possibilities or opportunities of work and social mobility, at the same time recreational and ecological prowess that wetland could offer. So it's like a best of both worlds, trying to allow you to go around with this transport hub, opportunities in terms of get yourself educated or getting employment, at the same time be quite close to natural settings. So for the first part is mainly trying to tie back both sides of the equation. Of course, we need businesses that work within the realm of green energy. And of course, if you look at the direction where the nation is going, more federal investment, or rather federal grants or federal allocations and legal infrastructure going to be spent on energy efficiency, electrical vehicle, and of course the eventual model of new economic model. So that also align with the new industrial master plan. So to provide the manpower, we for that particular endeavor, we believe that repurposing an old industrial complex into a TVET campus, Industry 4.0 TVET campus, could really help to train the proteges or mentee in the environment where the industry has been applied or rather practiced. And of course, some new office spaces that focus on this particular area of economy will be placed just on the other side of the road, with a pedestrian bridge and then micro mobility lane networks will ensure that they will have less dependency on private vehicles. Meanwhile, nearby this particular existing school, secondary school, Convent Butterworth, we want to develop a more socially conscious enterprise. Of course, a bit, trying to connect capital with people that is working to empower women, empower impoverished or people that is lacking in support through either social enterprise, and the youth with good ideas, with development of new startups, and eventually, if you could, get into one local unicorn, that will be great. To support all those domestic needs for dwellings, there are multi-model dwelling unit type that somehow allow people to attune themselves to a particular mortgage or lease model that they are familiar, that they are suitable for. There is an array of residential models that can fit their mortgage and leasing preference. And of course, we want to buff up the intensity of activities nearby the Penang Central, the idea of having the transportation hub linking to future SkyCap and KTM station will ensure that there are density and there's a need for larger office space and other supporting programs. Of course, all these will be interconnected by a rotunda that is a park circling around, try to tie back all the small fragmented parcels into one coherent urban fabric. And the idea of advancing logistical challenges and advancing logistical deliveries through autonomous drone, we're going to have that dedicated facilities as well as part of the new and renewed master plan proposal. On the other side of Parai River waterfront, we can see what we want to do is really to bring back nature into the ever-growing modern city of Butterworth. The idea was really to encourage mangrove forests. And while mangrove forest has always be seen or deemed as unusable, we're going to have this floating platform, okay, that connects multiple programs all across the jungle or the mangrove forest. The idea was really to bring back people to appreciation of nature and try to ensure that the biodiversity and floral diversity is kept in this particular region. So an overall master plan with the Butterworth Crossroad Rotunda will create a cohesive master plan that encourage people to advance themselves, get themselves mobile, climb the economic ladder, and of course be socially inclusive. Now, as we go up north along the Pride River, we can see that there is a large development gazetted that we somehow dedicated to food production or modern food production, with the idea of getting lower carbon food miles, the idea of bringing food or planting food or production of food in the city center. And this will be accompanied with, Penang's, what Penang's known for, which is all these culinary delights and delicacies, and of course, continuous research and development for the future of our food production and food security. And I think we are at the juncture where alternative food product, or what we call somehow manufactured food, or rather food alternative, with regards to especially proteins, we can somehow develop a zone that dedicate for that particular activity as a means of industrialization. Clean industry, there is one, and on top of that, cleaner and better quality food made accessible to all walks of life. The idea of sustainable food are also extended to the to the catch or the fisheries in the water body of Penang Bay. Now, the continuous outlay of mangrove forests traject up until to this particular area, and the programs come along with it. And this will create an reactivated waterfront, and somehow we get a larger or better appreciation while protecting the ecology, diversity, and resiliency of incoming excessive water if there is any monsoon time. Now, we're going to go back to the island. So in this particular area that is called Georgetown landfill, it's an artificial peninsula made of the construction debris, or rather construction waste, that have been piling up over the years, creating this huge mountainous crumble of rocks. So what we want to do here, because of the advent location to USM, University of Science Malaysia, we think that this should be where all the core creative and high technological activities are done. So I'm sure all of you are as aware. Penang also have this diverse cultural heritage, which is one of our intangible heritage that we must protect. On this side, where all the SMEs and of course new innovation will be marketed, developed, exchanged, where you have this array of conference facilities, event arenas, and of course spaces for the entities to work from, and to encourage as one of the other side of the coin, which is empowering global cultural production that somehow can be a new export, or rather an existing export, but on steroids, and with regards to the global reach around the world. So what we want to do is provide multimodal, multidisciplinary district that focusing on arts and those intersections and collaboration between discipline, hopefully will organically energize the whole creative community to again support those activities. There will be some development on dwellings, again multi-models, dwelling dependent on the market and the target user, and of course to partially subsidize the development. There will be luxury waterfront properties as well, and where all these economic cross-subsidize each other. So in total, it's a new, vibrant place to be, where arts, young minds come together with the idea of preparing a global product coming from Penang, and try to reposition what used to be a bunch of debris, construction debris, into an energetic master plan. Of course, this is also where the sky cap on the other side from the Penang Central will be land on, integrated with light rail and bus services on the island. And this particular region will be the hotbed of innovation and youth empowerment. Of course, we want to propel a new generation that has a lot of creativity and a lot of opportunities to express themselves and make or build businesses out of that interest and of course expertise. And at the end of the day, these collective individual developments will try to bring into a holistic and self-sustaining regions, where some are slightly inclined to improvement of ecology and resiliency, while the other provide job opportunities and new innovation platforms. All in all, this is a good practice to somehow rework on our existing urban fabrics and try to get the best out of them, regardless of the complexity and the challenges on site. And this is a true testament of Malaysia, what Malaysia should be, a cultural hotbed that have rich heritage, but at the same time is at the center of innovations and high-tech endeavors. With that, I thank you. I hope, even though I did not cover the principle of what the future city should be, but there are lessons to be learned out of the demonstrations, how we approach our project from a holistic point of view. Not really just talking about the physicality of the urban fabric, or rather the built environment per se, but the effect it has on the possible programs and, of course, economic models that come with it. Economic models are really just a means of transaction that allow us to enjoy dwellings or access to good public space. And of course, what we want to do is to protect the what do you call it, the interest of everyone, to make sure that we come out fair and equitable to everyone, to support the endeavor, or to support the initiatives. So with that, thank you so much. I'm not going to be there to answer all the questions, what do you call it, in person or live, but I welcome any questions or query via email, I guess, or any other means that you can, pass through the moderators or the organizers. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to eventually see some of you or all of you in person one day. Take care. Bye-bye.